We don't think email belongs in the code base. What we have found is that if you send it all through one place, then you only have one place where the problems can exist. And that helps a lot with debugging. It helps a lot with getting things out into production. And it helps a lot with having a unified brand. If everything goes out through one pipe and you feel confident that it's well managed and well built, then life gets a lot easier.
Welcome to The Peel. I'm your host, Turner Novak, founder of Banana Capital. Today's guest is Chris Frantz, co-founder and CEO of Loops.
Loops is the email sending platform for software companies.
Our conversation gets into why email is still such a big problem for software companies.
I think people undervalue the value of email and the amount of pain that it can cause if it doesn't work. If for some reason your transactional provider goes down and you primarily have users log in through email auth, like congratulations, your application no longer works.
Chris spent many years in marketing and growth. We spent a good portion of this conversation digging through things like when to lean into product-led growth versus hype.
If you want to build something very good, very defensible, and something that has the foundations to be a multi-decade long business, it's unlikely that you're going to get to that defensible state in 3 months.
Some of the early stunts they did to get their first users and why they keep it simple today.
We have almost zero analytics. We run no marketing, no sales.
The importance of good product.
The best way to actually improve your CAC is not to have better ads, it's to have a better product.
His hilariously simple framework for building products.
Talk to users, build the product, and then share any updates to the product and repeat forever.
Building one of the first GPT wrappers in 2020 and lessons from selling his first company.
Never let anybody take your own compensation out of your control if you can avoid it.
Breaking all the rules with Loop's YC application.
And he was like, I don't think anyone said that this year.
And why Loop's customer support team is all engineers.
You have fewer bugs because if there's anything that an engineer hates, it's being told by 10 different people that this one thing doesn't work.
Before we jump in, a reminder, I publish 2 episodes of The Peel every week, exploring the world's greatest startup stories, just like this one. Check out the back catalog of over 100 episodes, like conversations with the founders of Robinhood, Product Hunt, and BrowserBase. Now, a quick word from Ramp in Hanover Park before we talk to Chris. If you're running a finance team, you know how much time gets wasted on expense management. Chasing receipts, categorizing transactions, waiting for expense reports, it adds up quickly. Ramp handles all of this automatically. Ramp is a corporate card expense management platform that over 40,000 companies like Shopify, CBRE, and Stripe are using to streamline their financial operations. But here's what makes their corporate card different. Every transaction gets automatically categorized and matched to receipts. No more wondering what that $47 charge was 3 weeks later. You can set spending controls, get real-time alerts, and even block certain merchant categories. That sounds pretty cool. It's like having a finance team member embedded in every purchase. The platform integrates with your accounting system and ERP, so everything flows through without manual data entry. Whether you're issuing cards to a few employees or managing spend across departments, Ramp gives you visibility and control without the paperwork. Stop chasing receipts. Check out ramp.com/thepeel, get $250, and see what a corporate card can actually do for you. Time is money. Save both with Ramp. This episode is also brought to you by Hanover Park. Hanover Park vertically integrates fund admin, portfolio management, and the LP experience for finance and investment teams. Most of you have probably interfaced with a fund admin provider in some way. They're a necessary evil for every type of asset manager across not just venture, but also private equity and private credit. They provide bookkeeping and accounting so investment firms can report to their investors on a quarterly basis. What's crazy is they charge hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars per year to basically not screw up your accounting. They stitch together third-party software like QuickBooks, Bill.com, Salesforce, and Excel, and then throw a bunch of bodies at you. And that's where Hanover Park comes in. They built their own accounting system from scratch, which ingests all your firm's data and documents, and their AI-native solution automates all the manual work that drives private market investors crazy. Head to hanoverpark.com/Turner and try the AI native ERP for private market funds. That's hanoverpark.com/Turner and 10x your fund admin. Chris, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, excited to do this. Can you real quick tell me what Loops is, just for people who aren't familiar?
Sure. Loops is the email sending platform for software companies. We make it easy to send email for your software company.
Maybe this is like a rhetorical question, or maybe this is actually a very important question, but why is that such a big deal?
We think email is still important. I, for one, probably get more email than almost anybody as the
The email SaaS guy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's unbelievable, actually. But we think email is still important. It's the primary way that businesses communicate. And we didn't think that there was a single company out there whose entire focus it was to improve the experience of email sending for software companies. For e-commerce, Klaviyo did a really nice job. We didn't see anything out there for software companies. And it's something that we needed at every company we started prior.
Yeah, I think I've heard you mention before that there's like 7 or 8 publicly traded companies that are just email sending businesses. I mean, I guess it makes sense, but also kind of blows my mind. It's like just that big of a concept.
Yeah, definitely. They're not, once you grow to that level, it typically grows beyond just email as a single channel and expands to text, in-app, and push, but attentive, Braze, a number of others. And then, of course, larger companies like Intuit, which now owns MailChimp, sold for 12 billion, I believe. So there's quite a few companies out there where a significant portion of their revenue is driven through email.
It's sort of, if you want to expand a little bit more, it's almost like a customer relationship channel. Like it sounds like a lot of these will expand into like texting, push notifications, just other ways you talk to your customers. So it sounds like if you really just think about what it is at the end of the day, it's just like a way to have a relationship with the customer.
Yeah, it's a way to communicate in a medium that isn't controlled by any one entity and everyone is pretty comfortable with. Email is one of the few good things on the internet at its core. Maybe not so much in the spam inbox and promotionals, but open source protocol, anybody can use it. It's getting harder to do it entirely yourself now, but it's a good thing that exists. And in order to treat the channel well with the respect it deserves and your customers as well, we do our best to install a bunch of safeguards to prevent any issues with you hitting spam or you sending spammy message to your customers. For example, our most recent change, we actually made it easier for your customers to unsubscribe from your email list.
That sounds like a bad thing.
Yeah, it sounds like a bad thing, right? But our goal is just to make sure that we respect the protocol both ways. The result of that also is that your customers tend to be happier with you. And if you have an overzealous marketing person or an engineer who doesn't understand the current specs around that stuff, we handle that for you. So you really don't have to think about it. Our goal is to kind of build the closed loop for email.
Interesting. Is that the significance of the name then? Because when I first kind of read loops, I thought like growth loops, maybe like you send a email, loops in another customer, you know.
That was somewhat the original intention. Reforge has a really good program, or they did a decade ago, and it was one of their primary things was growth loops, and I realized at that time that loops.so was available, so I purchased it. And then when we applied to YC, we had 3 or 4 different ideas, ranging from email to privacy to a climate thing. We chose loops. We picked a domain that we had already owned, and that's pretty much the story there.
Nice. So maybe a little bit, just kind of going a little bit deeper on what you talked about before, but the way that someone might use loops or the way that software companies use email. Like if I'm just hearing this for the first time and I'm like, it's whatever. It doesn't seem like a big deal. Like, why is it such a big deal?
What we found is that pre-Series D companies, that's our target market right now, pre-Series D software companies, they tend to use anywhere between 2 to 5 different tools to email their users, which seems like a lot, but it does make sense if you start to think out what those different tools do and their unique use cases. It's everything from notifications to product updates to a newsletter to investor updates to onboarding, and then the whole world of transactional email. That can easily be represented in a number of different tools. Our goal is that you can do that all inside of Loops with a single tool at a single price point. We don't charge you based on sending. We don't charge you based on team seats. And we have a single shared set of editor primitives that you can use across all of those things. So what that means is your designer can create a couple shared components inside of one editor, and then your engineers can use that exact same template. Marketers in your team, product marketers, investors, anybody who happens to have access to your workspace and wants to use it can send with the same exact style stuff that your designer is happy with.
Like, does traditional email senders like not work that way? Like, is it because like the marketing team might use Klaviyo, the engineering team might have like hard coded some email sending thing that some guy built because he really wanted to? Like, is it just lives in all these different places and you don't get this like uniform experience?
Yeah, it's exactly that. So marketing might use MailChimp, engineering team might use SendGrid, somebody else on the engineering team might use something like Knock for notifications. Your product or community person might use Circle or Substack. And then the founders might use something. Well, there's a couple dedicated platforms for fundraising stuff. If we put that all into one, then what you get is a lot of benefits from the shared thing. You get like shared access, shared primitives, shared components, shared design language. And it also means that if you manage to take email out of the code base, then if you need to update your transactional emails, it does not mean you need to loop in the entire engineering team, go through a PR review cycle and wait until that process finishes. Let's say if you wanted to like update, like the copyright or something in a footer. Now a marketer or designer, or even somebody on the legal team could quickly do that and not have to go through the entire PR review process.
Is that what companies typically do? Like, what percentage is like actually coding all that stuff into the code base versus using a tool?
It's pretty high. It's somewhat of a controversial statement by us to say that we don't think email belongs in the code base. But what we have found is that if you send it all through one place, then you only have one place where the problems can exist. And that helps a lot with debugging. It helps a lot with getting things out into production. And it helps a lot with having a unified brand and understanding of the email communications that goes out. If everything goes out through one pipe and you feel confident that it's well managed and well built, then life gets a lot easier.
It reminds me of one of those things that can be email can be tons of upside, but also tons of downside. Like, it can be a great way to communicate with people, a great way to, sell something to a customer, recruit someone, etc. But also, like, if you send too many or bad emails, it's a pretty easy way for people to say, "Oh, this Loops company, I hate them." Like, block, delete, send to spam, ruin your authority, never buying your product. I'm blocking the founder on social media. Like, I never want to see this again because the email was annoying or bad. So, I guess it's like it's high stakes.
Yes, it is somewhat high stakes. I think people undervalue the value of email transparently and the amount of pain that it can cause if it doesn't work. If for some reason your transactional provider goes down and you primarily have users log in through email auth, like, congratulations, your application no longer works.
Really?
Like, they can't get into your platform if they can't log in. Maybe some of them go through Google Auth, but if many need two-factor auth or some type of secondary confirmation, as you see with like a lot of SOC 2 compliant companies, that becomes more of an issue. So deliverability, uptime, reliability, all that stuff is key and core to us. But we think that if you just let us handle email, we will promise to do our best to just make sure you're sorted. You don't need to learn about deliverability. You don't need to learn about any standards, dark mode in email, making sure that uptime is consistent, that send time is within a certain period of time. Literally none of it. Just give us the keys, we'll drive. And at the end of the month, you pay us a certain amount of money. It's mostly worked out pretty well. Our churn above like a certain price point, like when a real company becomes a company and they have like, maybe 5,000, 10,000 users, is practically zero. We've been around for around 4 years now. So we think we're doing something right.
Yeah, just speaking about the importance of email, like, I think if there's so many times where I'll buy something and I'll kind of, if I don't get an email or a text about it, you kind of wonder, did it go through? Like, that's kind of that final confirmation of like, you pay for Notion Premium and then you get that email that comes through 2 seconds later. You're like, all right, good. I have it. The transaction worked. And you're like, the email like gives you like as a customer that everything's good. So, and it's interesting too when you talk about like, this is a business. I'm just curious. Like, I'm sure you probably got this a lot when you started the company. Like, email, like, how is that valuable? Like, how do you get people to pay for that? Like, what's kind of like the opportunity in email? Like, how much money can you really make building a company here?
Yeah, our best customers are the ones that have been doing it for a while because they have very specific sets of expectations. And then if we meet them, then they're very happy to not have to think about all the typical things that come with email. It's usually the folks that we see that are most skeptical are the ones that haven't had their email down for an hour or two or for days without response from their provider, or have had like DNS records migration issues and not been able to fix that. Um, Once you've felt the pain, you don't want to deal with it anymore. I'd say it's pretty much equivalent to like using a cloud service for your hosting versus trying to like run the own metal in your living room. Once you've done that, you definitely don't want to go back to how it used to be.
What kind of comes after email? Because like it kind of seems like, in my opinion, maybe other people have kind of seen the sentiment as like too many emails out there. We subscribe to so many newsletters. Like I don't open things. What do you think is kind of like how what does the future of all this kind of look like?
Yeah, I mean, inherently, it's just communication protocol for sending text. So I think it's going to be around in one way or the other. I'm hopeful, and we've seen it with Gmail since they've implemented like Gemini Flash and other models for scanning, that the spam and inbox filtering is just going to get better, and then the stuff that you see is the stuff that you want to see. I think we're probably going to see a big shift there. Open rates and click rates are already garbage. They're obfuscated to the point of not being helpful for an individual. They're only helpful in aggregate, and I expect even that to shift in the future as privacy protections improve, which is a good thing.
So how will both of those shift?
Privacy protections, such as what Apple is doing with private email tracking, I believe is the name of it, prevents open and click rate tracking for iCloud users. In the newest Mac OS Tahoe and the related ones for iOS and iPad, they actually block UTM parameters as well in Safari messages. Most people don't know this. It hasn't been something they talked about, but they do broad sweep blocking. So that's everything from like Facebook click IDs to Google Analytics IDs to of course like UTM source, UTM campaign, which might be used to identify and attribute an email. So I think it's just going to get closer to sending stuff that people want to read being the key. And then people will let you know because they will unsubscribe. And that'll be your biggest indicator.
Interesting. It's getting like less data driven almost.
Yeah, and that's a good thing. I mostly think it's a good thing. We have almost zero analytics on our own site, aside from like technical monitoring. Yeah, I transparently don't care at all about where people come from, how they find us, any of that stuff. We run no marketing, no sales.
So how do you know that anything's working? Because it seems like, you think of like the typical tech company, it's like tons of experiments, all these channels, quantify everything, analyze everything. You're doing the opposite. How- it seems like maybe it works, but like how did you like come to this conclusion that this is the way to do it?
Well, you need a certain level of confidence to realize that most of it is garbage. So prior, maybe 6 years ago, my career up to that point had been built inside of like growth and marketing, and I'd spent just gobs of money in terms of buying. I purchased everything from like national television ads to national like metro subway rollouts to radio to podcast NPR. We were Linus Tech Tips biggest sponsor on YouTube for
Oh, nice.
6 months in a row or something.
Which product was this?
This was Curiosity. It's now a publicly traded company. It's Curiosity Stream.
I was gonna say it's like the streaming.
Yeah, I was one of the first employees there. I was the fifth hire, I believe, at John Hendricks. He was the founder of Discovery Channel, and they let their marketing person go. I stepped into the role and then just grew with it, which was cool for a long time. But I spent a lot of money and I learned the value of ad tracking and spending. I mean, we spent millions of dollars a month in 2016 in the heyday of like Facebook ad tracking and all that stuff, and grew a big distaste for it. And what I realized is that the best way to actually improve your CAC, your customer acquisition cost, or your CPA, your cost per acquisition, is not to have better ads, it's to have a better product. Everything is built on the product, right? That's what you're ultimately selling. If the product sucks, no amount of advertising is ever going to save you. It can help get you in front of people. Like the Cooley team is doing a good job of getting their product out in front of people by generating hype. But at some point, the product needs to do the work. So I think it's important to advertise a little bit in the very beginning to build yourself an audience. But at some point, the switch needs to flip to product. And then if the product can't grow itself, if you're in like a B2B SaaS, it obviously varies by industry. But if the product can't grow itself, then you probably didn't build a good product. I'm sure there's exceptions to the rule. But I think the greatest sign of product market fit is a company that grows exponentially month over month with nothing but word of mouth.
So if I'm not growing and my CAC is really high, is it just like you need a new product, like the product doesn't work?
Oh, no. I would say if you want to do like a product-led growth, B2B SaaS, that's best in class. If you want to build one of those very specific companies, this is which we do. That's the path that you need to take. If you want to build DocuSign, then you need a sales team. You need folks in major cities. You need a bunch of VC capital. You barely need a product, and you need probably a very rich founder that can bankroll it during downturns. But that's like a sales go to market. You know, if you want to do product, it's got to product first. It's got to be led with product. Otherwise, you're not building a product first company.
Yeah, that's fair. There's like two lenses. It's like sales led versus product led.
Well, there's also like hype led, which we'll see how long you can go.
Is that real? Like, is that even can you make a company with hype led?
I think Mischief did that for a little bit. I don't know if it's sustainable long term. Is what I would say. Maybe like Red Bull is potentially the closest. Like right now, there's like the world's like largest skateboard drop-in happening right now. It's like up on a skyscraper. It's currently being live streamed, millions of viewers. And like they've just been doing this for like a decade, maybe longer.
Yeah, I mean like 20, 30, 40 years almost.
Yeah, it's been a long time, right? So maybe hype led is possible, but it's hard.
Yeah, I mean, if you even think about it, like a lot of things kind of are hype led. Like when I even think about sports leagues, like the NFL, right? Each week it's like, oh, this big matchup between the Chiefs and the Bills. Like, it's like the first opening game of the season is like a Super Bowl rematch, or like, it's the two undefeated teams are playing this week, or like this guy's trying to break the record for the new all-time passing leader in week 15 or 16 or 17. And then, like in the off season, it's like a draft. And like, there's like always these like almost like big hypeable moments. And if you kind of relate it back to startups, it's like launching a new feature, new product, new employee joining, we hit a milestone. There's always these new things that are kind of happening and that are all kind of their own hype moments, really, at the end of the day.
Yeah, there's good corollaries between sports teams and startups, especially right now when salaries are very similar for star players, I would say.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah. I mean, with football or basketball, like the core product there has been refined over a long period of time, over a lot of scrutiny against audiences, like literally tested against audiences. Teams have been drafted, just the best of the best. So the hype cycle supports it, but no one's going to watch a multi-hour game if it's like littered with commercials, if it's actually a terrible product.
That's the thing I think is incredible about the NFL. It's like if you think about it, it's like a 3-hour TV segment with like 4 minutes of actual gameplay with just it's like the perfect vehicle for delivering ads to the average American. Like just an incredible business product in that sense of just you've been able to shove so many sponsorships into it.
Yeah, ChatGPT will be a better ad model.
Oh yeah, fair. In the sense of you can weave monetization to that a lot better than like traditional Google search.
Absolutely. Yeah. All they need is a disclaimer at the bottom and where it says information may be inaccurate. Information may be inaccurate and contain promotional material. And boom, that's it. And you can put ads in. You don't even need to disclose them past that point, especially with our currently like defanged FTC.
Interesting. So what's your opinion then on how valuable ChatGPT could be? Like how much revenue could that product do at scale? Like more than Google?
I don't know that I have the answer for you there.
I mean, it probably could.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, the outside bet though, right, is like AGI swoops in and then why do we have ChatGPT?
True. It's just all be piped into our brains. We don't even need an interface.
Then the rate of progress happens exponentially at that point. So, brain inference becomes something that is no longer sci-fi and very fast, right? So like in a very real way, like why does ChatGPT exist if knowledge multiplies every second?
Yeah, that's true. We're gonna hit post knowledge, post AGI, post knowledge economy.
Yes, but there will be email.
That's true. A good way to tie it back. So how did you initially kind of like come up with the idea for loops? I'm assuming you came across this problem over years, but like how did it kind of all evolve?
A couple companies ago, we were paying one of the aforementioned publicly traded companies a couple $100,000 a year, And it was part of like a 3-year annual contract, right? It was no longer just like annual, it was like 3 years. It's very common in these publicly traded, previously listed companies.
Is that a pay up front model? Like you pay up front for the 3 years too?
It depends. It can be structured in lots of different ways. Yeah. They have legal teams that are the size of their sales teams, and the engineering teams are a fraction of both. So I wasn't happy with that model at all. And then at our previous company that we sold, we were using MailChimp and SendGrid. We were paying SendGrid like $100 a month, and we were paying MailChimp $1,500 a month. So $1,600 a month total. And the services didn't speak to each other at all. So we had no idea if somebody got an email in one place, not in the other, if the customer synced in one place, not the other, what the design looked like in one versus the other, if that design rendered the same everywhere. And it was MailChimp, right? So I remember when we went to cancel the account after selling the company, the pop-up ad that I got and stuck in my head was like, try our new postcard delivery. And I was like, this is not where I should be spending my money. This is clearly not being built for me. Like, this might be great if I was traveling. I did not understand who this ad was for at the time. So anyways, that was annoying to me. And then I kind of banked on it. I was like, this doesn't integrate with any of the tools that I need. It doesn't fit into any of the flows. The templates are all about like creating matcha lattes or something and sending out to your coffee store customers. Like, it's not built for software companies. And at the time, nothing was. So that's kind of how it happened.
Yeah, I think you get, and it's sad when I look back at my email or my DMs. Like you had DM'd me at some point when you were around when you started the company, like, hey, we're raising a little bit of money if you want to chat. I think I saw it like a year or two later. I remember responding. It's in there in our DMs. I'm like, I think I'm going to regret missing this, but I hope it went well.
Hopefully not. Hopefully that guy fails. Then I'll be right.
Yeah. That's always my mindset as a VC. Like, I hope these guys fucking lose. I hope they fail. Yeah.
You need the heuristic, right? Like, you need some reinforcement of the negative belief. Otherwise, you're just giving money to any schmuck that walks through the door.
My anti-portfolio on email news or email providers in general. Apparently, when I meet them, I just need to invest, obviously.
But potentially, yeah. The heuristics are hard there for sure. I've invested in 6 companies, and 3 of them have actually had Series A's. So
that means it's successful. Yeah, that's all that matters, right?
Right. Yeah, it's hard to know.
Of course not, but yeah.
Wildly different degrees of valuations too.
Fair. Yeah. Which can and can't, doesn't mean things. Like, sometimes that's a good thing, sometimes that's the bad thing. The best companies are sometimes always overvalued. But that's also something you'd say in 2021 or 2025.
It's very hard to know. The only thing I'm happy about being very right on is NFTs were garbage.
Yeah. I feel like I got a lot of internet views and followers from commentating on the NFT mania, which was an interesting time in the world.
Yeah, I have a mental log of everyone that took a bite of the crazy pill and lost their minds. And I remember. We all remember. We know what you did. We know what your avatar looked like.
I think my favorite thing, though, is I'm probably one of the only people on Twitter that still has an NFT as their profile picture, because someone made this fake NFT generator where you could have a normal profile picture that wasn't actually an NFT, but it had that, like, I don't know, hectagon, octagon. I don't even remember. I think it was 6 sides. And it would make you like a 6-sided NFT profile picture without actually being an NFT. And I did this like 4 years ago, and I've never switched it. And they made it so that you can't do that anymore. So you like, the only people that still have these NFT profile pictures are people that have had them for the last 4 years. And I haven't seen one in, I don't know, a year. So I might be one of the only people remaining on Twitter with an NFT picture, and it's fake. So
there you go.
One of the things I'm proud of.
Well, I think Stripe's doing some like pivot back to blockchain or something. I don't know. So maybe it's coming into vogue, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Can you make an email in NFT? Was that ever a thing?
Man, I bet you could. Anything can be an NFT. You might be an NFT.
That's true. This whole podcast might be listening to an NFT.
Yeah. Don't mint me, bro.
So getting back on kind of when you were starting Loops, I think you had just come off selling Snazzy AI, was the name of the company. And then, so yeah, what's kind of the story there?
We got really lucky in that nobody really seemed to care about ChatGPT. It wasn't ChatGPT at the time. It was OpenAI. It was GPT 3.5 at the time. We had played with GPT-2, but GPT 3.5 hadn't quite come out yet, but there was like whispers of it. And I had seen like a couple demos. And then I shot Gregory Brockman an email, just randomly, never spoken to him before. I was like, hey, could I get access to this? And he was like, yeah, sure. We're doing a batch of like 10 companies to get first access to it. What are you working on? I told him, and he was like, all right, yeah, we'll give it a try.
What was it for people who don't know that you were making?
Oh, yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah. So we were making Snazzy. It was snazzy.ai, and it's currently owned by Unbounce. I actually haven't visited the site. Maybe it redirects now. But it was AI marketing copy. Well, I never felt very strongly about it as a problem that we were really solving. It was more of like, ooh, cool technology. Let's come up with a way to position it. So we were one of the first GPT wrappers, which is cool. It was in the same batch with us was Copy AI, Jasper, and there was a couple others. Several others fizzled out. I think Jasper is maybe still going. They've pivoted like 3 or 4 times since then.
Yeah, I think I actually remembered. I think someone said some really kind of mean things about them on the internet. And I saw the founder, I forget his name, but I think he actually replied and he like shared some of their metrics. And it seemed like they had, I don't know, they were doing relatively well, all things considered. It was like a really long reply too on Twitter. So I was like, oh, it's kind of cool. They've navigated it to the best as they could. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we didn't have any real desire to continue in the market, but the business was growing like gangbusters. We were one of the first B2B companies to spend money on TikTok. What I noticed is that at the time, right, I was like, okay, so we plugged this model in and there was no guardrails, right? It was awful. None of the tooling built that we have today. That makes it so easy. But like once you like 1 in 10 responses we got back was usable. And so, but once you plug that in and once you get it in, then the core product itself is just maturing on the model side. All you're doing is you're just rebuilding the tooling around it and making things nicer. And once we realized that, the dev stuff was mostly done, aside from like the normal asks people want, like reset password and invite your team members and all of the normal SaaS strappings. So then we had a ton of revenue coming in very rapidly, literally within a couple of days. And then I just started piping it all directly into TikTok creators. And this is pretty early. So this is like 2020 or something, 2021 maybe.
Was this in like kind of like influencer marketing, or was it TikTok's programmatic?
No, it was all, this is before that existed. Yeah, there was no ads on TikTok and there was no programmatic ad buying platform or any of that stuff.
To just like DMing or like emailing creators?
Well, I found one person to run the account. I paid her $1,500 a month and she ran our account and we got tens of millions of views very rapidly in like a couple weeks. And then she started finding other creators and then she would find them and then we would pay them. And that was it. And I would just pay her $1,500 a month and I would pay these various creators directly, however much per video. And it did gangbusters. Literally, there was nobody else out there that was doing anything like this. We could have scaled it and I should probably be on a yacht right now, but it wasn't a good product per se. Like we're trying to build a very good product right now with what we're currently doing. It was a good way to make money, to make some person happy, I think, on the user side, and to rapidly scale. But it was never anything I was very proud about. We sold it in under a year for a 7-figure sum to Unbounce, who like glued it into the core of their platform, and now they're very AI forward and all of that good stuff. I hope it's going well.
I meant to look Unbounce up because I had before this, but for me and also people who don't know, it looks like kind of like a marketing landing page builder, and looks like they probably kind of evolved from there over time.
Yeah, Unbounce back in the day was the premier landing page builder on the internet, actually. So if you were a marketing team, you were building them with Unbounce.
And there's supposedly kind of a big post out there. I've heard you mention in another podcast, but I couldn't find the post. But I think you kind of talked about just the process of selling it. Was there anything big that you kind of learned through the process, or?
It came inbound and it closed very rapidly. If I was to do it again, and I don't know that I ever will with our current company, but if I was to do it again, I don't think I would have tranches of any kind.
Tranches in the sale process, like in the way proceeds are received?
Yeah. So we got the proceeds up front, but then we had like tranches based on like revenue goals internally for also running the company aside, the main one. And I don't think I would ever agree to something that impacted my compensation in any way, in a way that I wouldn't have 100% control over. So I mean that very high level, but yeah.
Yeah, I've run into that before with acquisitions where company is acquired, it becomes kind of tucked into a part of another entity, and then that your acquired the acquired company inside the other one has like a specific target that they need to hit, but then let's say like the founders are not involved in it, so like you have no control over actually hitting those targets. And in all reality, if I'm the acquiring company, I'm probably going to make sure you just barely don't hit them, so I don't have to pay you anything. Like the incentives are not aligned for you to actually get those targets, especially if people are not involved who are being compensated by them. So that's something I ran into personally with one of those, with a portfolio company that was acquired. I can imagine that that could go a lot of different ways.
Yeah, I think it depends on the relationship that you have, the company, the goals that are created, and all of that stuff. But high level, never let anybody take your own compensation out of your control if you can avoid it.
Yeah, that's fair. And you completely kind of bootstrapped that, right? Like you didn't raise any outside capital for it.
That was bootstraps. We had investors, but there was no real, or we had investor interest, but there was no reason to take that. And then after selling, we didn't know what to do after we left Unbounce, and I stayed with the same co-founder. We applied to YC. We had applied once prior, the two of us, 4 years prior, and we didn't get in. So this was the second application. And like I said, we had a number of different ideas, from privacy to climate to loops for email. And we got in. They were mainly interested in loops. That was our biggest pain point and where we had the most experience as well. We built something rapidly and saw some early adoption and decided that was the way to head.
Nice. And what was your application like? I know there's kind of you put a ton of work and tons of research into it, right? And spent tons of time.
We spent very little time. Yeah, I recommend, I didn't even know you could ask for referrals or recommendations, or that people prepped really hard for this. I guess I was maybe a little naive. The first time we applied, like I guess now like 12 years ago or something, we like drove to like a place and we like found like a sequestered quiet room and blah blah blah. We like tried hard. We did a couple takes. This time Adam texted me like 20 minutes before it was due. Hey, should we try and do like YC this year? And I was like, oh, I don't know. And then we just like knocked out a very quick application. We did a quick Zoom call because it was like 11 p.m. or 11:30 or something. And we just like told jokes at the end of it for like a couple of minutes, way over the amount of time that it was supposed to run. And then we uploaded it and that was it. And then,
Nice.
yeah, we got an email shortly after. And we did that. We did the interview process. It went on for like 40 or 50 minutes. It was Michael Seibel, Brad Flora, and somebody else. And then that night we got a phone call and they said we got in, and I said I'll have to think about it.
Was that like a negotiation tactic almost? Or
No, I was like, I gotta ask my wife. I was like, I don't know, guys. Like, this seems like a big commitment. Let me chat with my wife and make sure she's cool with me having like a 3 month sprint right now. Like, we have a newborn. Like, there's a lot going on. And he was like, I think Brad who called. He was like, I don't think anyone said that this year. We usually just get a yes. And I was like, okay, sorry about that. Let me call you back though. And then, yeah, so then I did. And my wife was like, yeah, of course, you've wanted to do this for a while. You should do it. And that was it.
so why did you do it? Because you kind of been historically, you've always kind of bootstrapped. YC is a pretty big commitment. Sounds like it would be almost like inconvenient to go out there. Like, why do it?
Well, we didn't go out there. It was COVID. So it was a COVID batch. And I did it. That was one of the reasons that we decided to apply as well, is because my co-founder Adam is in upstate New York with his family, and I am in a small town in Maryland outside of DC with my family. We both have very nice lives that we've built, and they are not inside of San Francisco. So we saw an opportunity there for maybe attending remotely, and decided to take that.
Yeah, I've heard you describe it as kind of, it's like a no-brainer if you want to build a big company. Like why is that?
Oh, because honestly, sometimes I wonder if if it's an IQ thing or if I just see things very simply, or like I wonder which side of the bell curve I'm on.
Well,
But
because there's like arguments. You see people arguing extreme on both ends of the spectrums of why you should or shouldn't do YC or the value of it.
yeah, I think you can just look like statistically, YC tends to make good bets. So if you want to be considered a good bet and statistically have a good chance of succeeding, like maybe then you should do YC. It seems pretty clear to me, right? Like people go to Ivy League schools for like a chance of success. It's barred for entry in various ways, but all of these things are good indicators. If you pile on more good indicators, does it mean that you're going to be a success? Absolutely not. But do other successful people have those similar indicators? Sure. So why not pattern match yourself?
And you, I think, raised a little bit of money like around demo day or before demo day. I think that's probably when you DM'd me.
Yeah, we closed around before demo day, like I think a week and a half, 2 weeks before. Yeah, and we raised from a number of different angels and investors, and generally been very happy. We made it very clear, hopefully, to our investors early on that the best investor for us was one that just let us build our business and we didn't have to engage with too much. We don't think an investor is going to save or build or do anything meaningful to the company. And if they do, then that's nice, but it's not something that we should spend any time trying to make happen because that's not repeatable and it's not something that I'm going to get any real value of at this stage. Post product market fit, maybe when we're like ready for IPO and we're like collecting funds and doing all that good stuff and we actually need a serious bankroll, sure. But like no investors like flying to customers' offices all across the country off like a $500,000 pre-seed or something, like there's varying amounts of commitment and stuff and what you should expect. And I think at the pre-seed and seed stage, your investor commitment and expectations should be very low. And it's up to you to build a good company. And then, you guys can reconnect and see what that looks like in the future.
So then how did you kind of suss out or determine who you wanted on board? Like, was there a certain way you thought about who you should bring on? It sounds like it wasn't necessarily based on, like a value add per se.
No, it was 100% of who I spoke with and who I enjoy speaking with. We talked to 40 investors. Around 32 or so were interested in investing in us. So we turned down the majority of them. It was who I enjoy getting along with, who understood the expectations. We had a couple investors who thought that they were doing these really big value adds. They were like, we'll be in the office every day. We'll be the first person you talk to in the morning. We will text you on the weekends. I'm like, I will literally pay you to do none of those things.
Yeah.
Please, I'm not like, please, no. So it's just people who like understood. What it ended up being was like a bunch of very successful founders. That was one of like the qualifications. It's like you founded a company in the past. And then folks that kind of understood that it wasn't their job to make our company, it was our job to make this company. And as a result of that, I send an investor update, I get some emojis and some LFGs, and that's about
Some
it.
rocket emojis, yeah.
Yeah, if I need funds or something, I'm confident I could hit up any of them and get any amount that I needed to bridge any period of time. But like we've been cash flow positive for a while, we're growing, we don't need any additional funding, and I think they would more be confused as to why I was asking than anything else.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't realize that the VC high touch and like always, being in front of the portfolio companies, it's really more for them than it is for you as a founder. Because as an investor myself, like I kind of need things to talk about to my investors. Like I mean, you're so removed from everything that's going on. Like really what you do is you give money to some founders and then it's like Jesus take the wheel. Like you just wait. They either die within like 1 or 2 or 3 years, or it's like 10 years later and it's like, hey, this might maybe be worth something, but like you don't actually know. So I mean, as an investor, you get data points. It's like, oh, these loops guys, like, oh, Chris is just an animal. Like he's always shipping, like they're always in front of customers. And you like need data points to go back to your investor so that they think you're good as an investor. Like, oh, they're spending all this time with loops. They're adding all this value to Chris and the team. And like, they know how valuable this company is, and we know we're going to get a lot. So, I mean, to your point, it's really annoying. So it's like, I think it's as an investor, it's like finding that balance of just like, how can you get that from the portfolio? Like, oh, they're tracking really well. Like these guys are on a good course. They're doing well, but I'm not being annoying to the founders and texting them every morning and trying to go to the office and help them write code or something, or introduce them to worthless customers or candidates or.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm sure that's helpful for some founders, and maybe I don't speak for the majority of them. I think if we're gonna like VC side talk for a second, I think what Standard Dalton and Co are doing with Standard Capital is interesting, and that's probably as close to perfect from a venture fundraising vehicle that I've seen so far. So Standard Capital is offering like just a form that you fill out, similar to like a Y Combinator application, and then they grant you some amount of like Series A funding if it is accepted. That's pretty much it. I think that's great for Series A. I actually think that you could go even further with it. If I ever clear loops or have any amount of free time, I've always wanted to do a separate fund where I just do my best to mirror Y Combinator's investments, because historically they have fantastic returns. So I think you should probably just make a form on your page that just grants safes to any Y Combinator alumni up to a certain amount of money until the fund exhausts. And that should be the extent of it.
That's a use case for NFTs. You get your YC safe as an NFT, and then you submit the NFT. It's like, oh, proof of stake, proof of whatever they call it.
Hey, Jesus Christ! It's a legal contract is proof of stake.
Yeah, proof of safe is probably what they call
proof
it.
of safe. Oh yeah, sure, yeah. There's something there. Yeah, if YC ever launches like an auth with YC OAuth function, I'll spin that up. I'll raise a couple $1 million, and then I will throw out basically like a self-funding fund that only invests in YC companies. Everyone gets like a percentage of the fund, and it's done as safes. It's a single click. You get a DocuSign in your email. Nothing further besides a YC OAuth. I don't want to even hear your company name, what your idea is, any of that stuff.
Yeah. And so one thing interesting that you said, maybe you mentioned this to me earlier, or maybe we were recording, but you skipped a Series A. Like you had an opportunity. I think maybe you said you got a term sheet. I can't remember if this is specifically what you said, but can you just explain that to me, the whole process and why you chose to do that?
Sure. So typically, I say typically as in like maybe 5 years ago or so, folks looked at term sheets or folks looked into raising a Series A when they hit $1 million in ARR. That was the usual benchmark. So we cleared that a while ago, and we did look at fundraising, but I've never felt that we had product market fit. I think we're obviously the closest we've ever been, but I still don't think we're quite there yet. On the flip side, I can think of maybe 5 or 6 companies that I've seen. Besides maybe like a local bodega or something, that's probably a pretty good product market fit. But we didn't get there with where I thought we should be from a product market fit side of it. So we chose not to raise funds, cash flow positive, and we're growing a rate that allows us to continue to hire and continue to build product and acquire customers without having to do any marketing or sales. When we hit that product market fit stage, we might look into it, or we just might keep skipping until we end up at IPO, acquisition, or I retire.
And you mentioned the $1 million Series A benchmark. Is that still true today? What do you think? What do you think kind of the current market sort of looks like?
I don't know what the current market looks like. It seems insane. I talk to folks, and it seems like borderline NFT crypto levels of insanity out there right now.
Why do you say that?
Just because people are raising Series A's in like 90 days, that kind of stuff. 90 days from like company inception, that kind of thing. And if you can build something, even if it's a model, and it takes you 3 months to do it, then other people can build something similar in 3 months. And we spent 1.5 years on the product before we launched it. No, that's not to say that we've built a better business or that we've allocated our time well or any of those things. But if you want to build something like very good, very defensible, and something that has the foundations to be a multi-decade long business, it's unlikely that you're going to get to that defensible state in 3 months. OpenAI had been around for like 6-7 years or something before they launched ChatGPT. It takes a while to build a good thing. So if you see college freshmen building something in 3 months and then knocking down like 40, 50, 60, $80 million Series A, maybe the market's a little frothy.
Yeah. What would you recommend then to that college freshman? Like, should they not go through that process of, launch video, some hype, raise a bunch of money? Like, what advice would you give to that person or to yourself if you're back in that moment?
I think it's a great way to potentially build wealth very early on in your life. I Yeah, I mean, it's not clear if the goal is experience, if the goal is to build a good business, or if the goal is to make a bunch of money. And I'm sure if you're 22 years old, maybe you don't know the answer either. You're just doing what feels right and what makes sense in the moment and what investors are willing to give you money for. And investors are so scared of missing out on the next scale or the next OpenAI. They're chasing everything that has AI at the end of the name.
And it's interesting because I think you said you have a lot of customers that are AI companies. Email's still pretty important, even in this era of, post AGI.
Absolutely. Yeah, we have lots of. We want to build email for modern software companies. Most modern software companies today are building with AI at the core. So we have companies like Replicate that build on us, and then we also have companies like that are a little bit newer, like Granola. And just the other day, I saw Orchids, who's like the top of the web design benchmarks. It was funny. I saw them because Dylan from Figma tweeted a stat that they were number 2 in, and Orchids was number
I saw
1.
Orchids was number 1. Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah,
too.
and I was like, "What's this Orchids?" And then I was like, "Wait, isn't that familiar?" And then I checked my inbox, and I was like, "Oh yeah, look at that!" And they're using loops. So yeah, so the best modern companies today are choosing to use us as well. But we have no AI features. We're not built especially for AI, but we have built a very robust, very stable, very nice to use platform, fielded entirely by a technical team.
How did you first get people to start using it back in 2022?
Right. Well, we did spend a year and a half building this thing. So
So was this 23?
yeah, well, so YC kind of requires you to get revenue while you're in a. Um, I don't know if it's a requirement. It certainly felt like it. Michael Seibel is a scary dude.
If you don't get revenue, yeah. Well, I don't know. What's the threat? What's the threat that they give you? Do they just make you feel so disappointed that you didn't get revenue and you just feel like peer pressured into it?
There's some level of competition, right? Like you might be like, oh, I'm better than. It'll take a while to like build, blah blah blah. But like maybe somebody's next to you and they just hit $10,000, and a couple days ago they felt the same as you, and now they have $10,000. And every week we would meet up and we would compare revenue. Like, and Michael Seibel would oversee it in our small batch, and we would put it on a spreadsheet, and everyone would look at the spreadsheet, and you did not want to be last on the spreadsheet. And he'd be like, so why? Why do you have no revenue this week? And I'd be like, well, reasons. And he'd be like, okay, fine. And then you go on to the next person, and then they wouldn't have those reasons, and they would have revenue. And you were like, well, why was my reason good enough? And you start self-questioning. And then eventually we just built something that users could use. It was very small. And again, we stayed in like building stealth, waitlist, whatever mode for a year and a half. We had users paying us, but it was a very small amount. We handpicked them off of the wait list. And it was just to make sure that the numbers continued to go up and that we had users using our software so we were not building in silence.
Then how'd you get people to start using how did you first get people on the wait list?
Yeah. If you don't have a product, you do need something in order to get people interested. So we tried a number of different stunts. So some of that hype stuff, I think it's a great way to kickstart an audience if you don't have one already. So we purchased a billboard in Times Square, and then we let Y Combinator startups put their ads on it throughout the day. We had a photographer posted up that we hired off of Thumbtack who took pictures throughout the day and posted it through our company Twitter account and tagged the companies. That worked really well. We sent a bunch of swag out. One of the more fun things that we did was we did a cereal called Loops, like in the old Airbnb style. Airbnb released like McCain, Obama cereal boxes when they were trying to like generate some interest and hype. So we did that for us, but it was just for the company Loops. And inside of it, we put a 3D printed decoder ring. So then when you solve the decoder ring combination, it takes you to a private URL. And when you figure out the puzzle on the private URL, you get airdropped a hoodie. So that was like really absurd. And it was like professionally manufactured boxes. I hired like a great designer. Like we didn't have a product to sell, right? So I just spent my time and energy on something.
was a box of Loop cereal that had a decoder ring, and then you had to decode the URL. When you went to the URL, you were sent a hoodie to your house or to your location.
Yeah, it was like way overbuilt. We did like a couple hundred of these, right? Like, and it worked. Like a bunch of early customers were like, just like, this is like a cool nerdy thing. Like I get a box of cereal with a decoder ring in it. I don't know what the decoder ring is going to do, and a lot of them just kept it and as like memorabilia. And they haven't even opened it. We actually have like a surprising amount of hoodies for the amount of boxes that we sent out. So we still have like a surplus of hoodies, but I think all the cereal's gone.
Interesting. Well, there's the one strategy. I mean, there were some startups in 2021 that were like they would sell the hoodies, like they'd sell merch. It was like software companies that had more merch revenue than product revenue, I think. I don't know
Yeah.
if you remember those days.
No. Fast.
Oh yeah, there's one called Fast.
They were doing $1 hoodies.
I mean, they did a very good job at generating hype back in 2021.
Yep. And where are they now?
Yeah, so I guess it's like hype can be good.
Hype can be good. You got to have the product though. You got to back with product. Yeah, I think it's a little different nowadays because hype gets you to a place where your product is in front of users, and if those users haven't used anything like that solution before, and if it's essentially a wrapper of a foundation model, then you can do some like very interesting things. And then I think if you just only focus on hype and you have a very thin UI and you let the model providers focus on improving their model, then you act as this like hype forward middleman that is maybe an effective go-to-market. Like, I don't think we've ever been in a place quite like that before, where the product itself continues to improve and it's entirely out of your hands, because as it gets better, your product just gets better and you don't have to do anything but continue to pay them. I don't know that there's ever been a technology equivalent of where we are now. So you really could, if you are an AI forward company, devote all of your time entirely to marketing and hype sales, and probably still have a decent business model until AGI wipes us all out.
Yeah, true. We got about 2 years. I feel like we've had about 2 years for about 2 years now, but we probably have about 2 years until AGI wipes us all out. Maybe it's a year and a half.
I think the timeline updates depending on Anthropic's funding cycles.
Yeah, I mean that's another unknown, or sorry, another. In my sense, and I think it's like an unspoken secret of like you can just look at the language that comes out from a lot of these guys of like, what are their incentives around the claims that they're making. Like I think there's the classic Anthropic Dario's has like some clips that have gone viral about like 6 months from now 90% of all coding will be done by AI, and it'll be like exactly 6 months later someone will repost it and it's like but yeah, lines up with the funding cycle. So do you think, is it easier to get attention or build a product then?
Yeah, it's much easier to get attention. You can buy attention. If you have money, you can just pay somebody with influence, and then you have attention. It's a very simple transaction. There's largest companies in the world are built around that. Facebook ads, which sells into Instagram as well, and then of course Google ads, which is digital oil, if you will. So yeah, it's definitely much harder. It's very difficult to build a good product for a specific audience that continues to improve and satisfy that audience. If you want to play in hard mode, do it for a combination of user demographics. So we build for designers, for engineers, for customer success, and for marketers. And pleasing all 4 of those types is pretty difficult. So
how do you kind of describe sort of the cadence of building loops? Like I think it might be your pinned tweet on Twitter, or maybe you just tweeted it the other day. But how do you just kind of think about just like the general flow of just what building the company and building a good product like that looks like?
Yeah. So I think it comes from the organization level. So we have an entirely technical staff. There's 9 of us who are remote. And what that means is that everyone is familiar in communicating in like a purely digital way, which means that our paper trail for any feature, for support, for any of that stuff is immaculate. It's never like somebody tapped me on the shoulder and said this. It's always written down and there's a paper trail on its line. So anytime that there's something that needs to resolve, it resolves very quickly. It also means that we have 24/7 global coverage, global technical coverage, which is fantastic because it means that we're able to speak to like corporations that are in international places that would otherwise be difficult to support. And probably the best part is if you have engineers do support, you have fewer bugs, because if there's anything that an engineer hates, it's being told by 10 different people that this one thing doesn't work, and they are the person that can fix it. And if they fix it, then those 10 people will stop talking to them. And it's been a very effective way. It does, I'd say it's probably not a fit for all people on our team, but it is part of how we run the company and it is important. So we think all you really need to do is talk to your users, build the product, talk to your users, build the product, and then share any updates to the product and repeat forever
Until AGI
until AGI.
or heat death of the universe.
Yeah. He does IPO. Yeah.
Yeah, once you IPO, that's when you stop talking to them, and you can
Well, yeah,
buy the
that's
yacht.
when we start talking to shareholders, not customers, or shareholders now.
Oh yeah, true. And yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting when I heard you say that you have all the customer support team is engineers. You also mentioned you don't use any AI customer service or customer support things. Is that still true, or was that true?
Yeah, we don't have like an AI chatbot. What we do use now is a tool called Zeus by Atlas. It's good. I think it's pretty under the radar. So we use Atlas. They were one of our batchmates in YC. They were maybe our first customer, actually. And we've used them since they started, and vice versa.
What's the URL? Do you remember?
Atlas.so.
.so. Oh, you guys got your SO mafia going.
Yeah.
It's Somalia as a domain name, right?
Yeah, for sure. So Zeus is cool because it doesn't surface as a chatbot in the app. It's just a live chat on our site. And if you ask me a question, it will actually suggest things to me as an answer. And then I can choose to revise my answer based on the suggestions, send it as if it was sending from me, all of that. So they never interface directly with an AI. And anytime that I use anything, it's always human in the loop. It's something that I see, approve, and send out.
And I know you mentioned before you personally onboarded the first, 300 customers for the first year. I don't maybe it's even longer than that, but why did you do that?
The entire year and a half, I did 100% of all onboardings for every new user. I think it's important to understand what you're building towards and what the market is. If you don't like talking to lawyers, you shouldn't build a legal company. If you don't like talking to people building software companies, you shouldn't build a tool that caters to them. So I do like this audience. I find the aggregate level of TISM to be similar to my own. And it makes for easy conversations usually. And I find that we're still working off of like the early Figma designs and the early conversations that I had like 3.5, 4 years ago, because we fully understand this market, what needs to be done, what needs to be built.
Yeah, it's probably like you probably learn a lot from your customers because it's like similar. You're all building kind of like similar things, at least more similar than someone who has like a CPG brand or like an NFT thing. Like it's software, and like you're also building a software company. Like just talking to those people, you'll learn a lot.
Yeah, you do. What I've learned also is just how incredibly talented our team is internally. What I will typically find, because we do the support and we build the product, we've gone toe to toe with many various engineering departments, and 95, 96% of the time, our engineering team comes on top with both like the solution of how our data model is constructed and like why it's a better solution. And these teams retain and they're happy to build it and they tell the people about it. So we think it works.
Yeah, one of my portfolio companies, he describes it as you want to compete against competitors where they think of their engineering teams as the IT department. Like they don't have engineering teams. They have IT, where it's like that's what you want to be competing against.
Absolutely. In the software space, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. And you speaking of like things like 996, I feel like it's kind of in the discourse, like I don't want to whatever that means. I actually heard you say you work 7 days a week at Loops. So that's like 997. So explain that. That sounds even more intense.
So I have two kids, a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. Actually, just turned 5. And look, I'm very plugged in. The first thing I check in the morning is inbox and Slack to make sure that like customers aren't being held up. There's not an issue another way. I still do probably 60 to 70% of all the support myself. I do all the onboarding still myself. We don't force onboarding, but I do it all myself. And I am like the point person for a lot of our larger customers as well. And like that's all something that I've chosen and I'd like to do. And it's a place that I put myself in on purpose. But as a result of that, like, I do find myself working probably more than most founders at our current revenue level or team size or whatever it happens to be. A lot of that stuff can be unblocked on my phone, which is cool now. But I still, for better or for worse, try to keep up with the engineering team. And it results in a lot of work. I am not like 996 though. I am up when I'm up and I'm looking at my phone and I am on my computer often. And then between that is family. And then there is pretty much nothing else.
That's right. I mean, I feel like I'm in the same boat where it'll be like we went to Disney World with the kids a couple weekends ago. It's like a 4-day trip over a long weekend. Super fun, but you're like in a ride about to get on like Guardian of the Galaxy ride or whatever, and like an email, and you're like, oh, I gotta quick read this or something. Like you're kind of working, but you're also on vacation. It's like one of those fluid things where I don't know. I don't think I could ever actually fully disconnect from anything, but also I don't work 24 hours a day, even though I kind of do, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. Like, absolutely. Like, I might not be strapped in front of the laptop, but yeah, I mean, like when I'm in the shower, right, I'm like actively thinking about what the next thing is for us, what I need to discuss with people that day, like what customer needs this, and like it's always on my mind. If it's not on my mind, then my wife or my kids are, and or other members of my family, and like that's what I have bandwidth for. It's one of the reasons I can never move to San Francisco and build this company. I just don't. I don't have the bandwidth for it. There's not a world where I go to coffee shops. Period. People are always like, "Oh, the people you meet at coffee shop." And it's like, when are you going to like? Why do you have the time to do that? Like, what are you doing? Um, yeah, Michael Seibel described it as like increasing your luck surface area by living in a densely populated place with many talented people. But that only works if you actually go somewhere. If you are just like only building your company and it's happening remotely and you're talking and you're spending time with your family and you're above the age of 30, then like you do not have that time. However, if you're under the age of 30 and you're in your 20s, then I think it's a great place to build a company.
Yeah, I mean, it's like in one side, it's like I always was. I don't want to say hated, but I did not enjoy the sort of like political, small talk bureaucracy of like the workplace of like you got to go hang out in the kitchen and talk for 20 minutes, but it's like I got work to do, and like I got home 20 minutes later because of this. But then in the other side, it's like it is useful to just like combine work and your social life in the same. Like I go to San Francisco a couple days a month, maybe like a week a month, and we'll have like host an event, and it's like kind of fun, and you see some friends, but it's also like it's kind of work related, I guess. Like you kind of hit it all in one shot to kill multiple birds with one stone. So it's like, I get it.
Yeah, it's reasonable. It's good. I should probably do more of it. I just, but people talk about being locked in and then they like also drink matchas they don't make. I just don't understand like how those two things coincide. Like, bro, you're not locked in. Like, my fucking coffee makes itself in the morning. I go downstairs, I drink it, and I've already replied to like 3 different things before I gotten out of bed. That's locked in. You know what I mean? Like, I am prematurely gray. I have like wild bags. Like, if you are lifting weights, you are not locked in. You are lifting weights.
Have you seen that one video? It's like the one guy who talks about how he does 3 days in one day. Like he's like, when I wake up at 6 a.m. and I'm doing all this stuff by 12 p.m. I'm on my second day. And by 4 p.m. I start my third day. And I do 3 days. Like you give me a month, I'll compete. You give me a year, I've lived a lifetime. That's probably one of my favorite videos.
If you don't look like you're dying of like some type of like fatal illness, then you're probably not as locked in. Like, you need to like, honestly, you should look. This is like the worst I've looked in my life.
Really? I was gonna say, like, yeah, you've got like the silver gray almost. Like it looks good.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, like genetically though, that probably shouldn't be happening. Like stress, like lack of sleep, children. throwing things at me.
Yeah, that's fair. Like, is it a bag or is it just a bruise? Like, is it a bag under the eye or did you get hit with a block?
It could be either or depending on the day. But like you see like Sam, like Sam's not looking so good nowadays, right? Like he's feeling it, he's doing it.
That's fair, yeah.
Yeah. I want to show me those podcasts where they don't look super refined. Show me them like where they look puffy. They look like crap. Like Elon always looks like shit. Do you know what I mean? Like, that guy's doing things, but he looks terrible, like 100% of the time in like different ways, like some days he's bloated, some days he's like got like crazy bags and all his hair is like clearly that guy has got some other stuff going on that he just this is like the least important thing. You need to look terrible to be successful.
So that's the thing. It's like if you're a founder, you're doing your first CNBC interview. Like, do you wear a suit? Do you get a haircut? Do you get like a manicure or like a face puffing, like some kind of treatment before? Or do you go on just looking like you got hit by a truck? Like, what's the strategy?
I think you got to get a body double. I'm not really sure there's any other option. You need to like clone a twin, have them trot out like for all of the PR, all the fundraising around the IPO, CNBC twin. It's the only solution.
So this is somebody who looks really good.
Yes, in your place, in your stead. Absolutely. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. I'll keep that in my back pocket for when I IPO the Banana Capital and the Peel podcast conglomerate in the future.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, why wouldn't you? You should probably start working on it now, to be honest.
Probably. Yeah. One thing you mentioned, I wanted to ask you about before we signed off. You mentioned you recently cleaned out a wasp nest with a shop vac. I'm deathly afraid of bees and wasps. Like, it's probably the one thing, it's my irrational fear. Like, I just don't like them. Like, I just avoid putting myself in those situations. How do you do that? Like, how do you clear out a wasp nest with a shop vac?
Yeah, I mean, you probably shouldn't. One of the benefits of living in a small town is that you start to feel invigorated by some of your neighbors doing things that they shouldn't do with like on their exterior and stuff like that. So like now I think I can do pretty much anything, These hands are made for typing and that's just what they do. But like every once in a while, like somebody will send me text messages of something on Reddit with like some homeowner thing, which is a friend of mine did. And I was like, I'm doing this. So we had like a couple hundred wasps that built a nest in one of our walls.
Oh, geez. Inside the house or more exterior?
We have like a secondary mudroom area, so it's like borderline exterior interior. But they had breached the interior, so they made it into the secondary area, and we had about a dozen of them flying around inside there, and then hundreds in the walls. So my friend sent me a Reddit post, and I have a shop vac. I filled it up with some soap and water, taped it to a rake, and shoved it up into the hole. And I like vacuumed up maybe like a couple hundred wasps just in the period of like 8 hours. Totally cleared it out. Found another one on the other house the other day. Did the same thing. Super effective. Yeah, and this weekend I'm like chiseling a bunch of bricks in our driveway just because it seems like something that I feel like I should be able to do. Like you should be able to chisel bricks.
Yeah, you got some confidence from the shop vac.
Yeah. I looked online. Like apparently you can use a screwdriver and like a large hammer, and I have both of those things. So
what are you trying to even out the driveway or something? Like, why do you need to chisel bricks in the driveway?
we have this we live in a nice historic home. It's like 120 years old or something. The bricks are just as old as that, and they've been pulverized in like the front of our driveway, like these little pavers. They're basically dust, so they need to be like taken out and then either flipped if they're not totally pulverized or replaced. And that means I also need to figure out how to cut brick, which is something I will figure out also.
Are you allowed to do this? Like, don't they make laws like you can't change a historic home? Like, you got to get permits to do the smallest thing?
You can just do things. Yeah.
Oh, fair. It applies to startups and historic homes.
Yeah. Ideally, you do things with your car parked in front of you, so like the neighbors don't see. But yeah, you can definitely do things.
Yeah. Hopefully, you don't have an HOA, one of those Karens who's like reporting everything.
No HOA. No HOA. We do have a neighborhood newsletter list who I've tried to convince to use loops unsuccessfully.
Okay.
I'm like somewhat on like the wrong side of the fence there in terms of like my early entrance into the community, but I'm working on it. We'll see what happens.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that's probably a good way to end it. It sounds like you have a lot to do this weekend with the driveway, with the chiseling, following up on the bees and the wasps, making sure you got them all. But yeah, this is a lot of fun. Is there any way people can find you? Like Twitter, is that probably best?
Yeah, I'm Frantz on Twitter. I'm probably something on Threads and Blue Sky, but I haven't checked in a year.
LinkedIn, are you a LinkedIn guy?
I am not, but I am on there as Chris Frantz, I think. And if you don't get me, you're going to get the drummer of the Talking Heads. So really, it's a win no matter what.
Yeah, didn't you say that someone emails you all the time thinking that that's who you are?
Yeah, Moby. A couple others. People email me thinking I'm the drummer of the Talking Heads because I own chrisfrantz.com. And yeah, it's cool. I mean, like I almost like went to like a desert with Moby. I had to bail and tell him at the last moment that like I'm not Chris Frantz. But like I really want to meet Moby. Do you know what I mean? Like I feel like he's like
Just figure out a way. Yeah. Just go through with it one of these times and be like, yeah, no, I'm not actually the drummer from the Talking Heads. I'm just the email software guy.
absolutely. Yeah. If you had used loops, this confusion never would have happened. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. That's a really good marketing pitch. Maybe you should try that for one of your marketing stunts.
If we ever do a commercial, I'm going to reply to that email and be like, hey, Moby, like I need a soundtrack. Here's $50,000. See, I told you I was a good dude.
We'll be on the lookout for it. Maybe we'll do a follow-up episode when you put out that first commercial.
Perfect. Maybe I'll have Moby next to me. That'd be cool, right?
Yeah, that'll be awesome. Well, cool. This is a lot of fun. Thanks for doing it.
Yeah, for sure, Turner.
And thank you for listening. And thanks to Hanover Park and Ramp for supporting this episode. Head to ramp.com/thepeel for $250 on your first cards and hanoverpark.com/Turner for the modern fund admin provider for institutional grade investment firms. If you like this conversation, check out the back catalog of over 100 episodes, including last week's with Dan Gray, where we talked through untold lessons from dozens of academic research papers covering 40 years of startups and venture capital. If you want to help me out, please like, comment, subscribe, and include me in the subject line of your next customer email. If you want to miss a future episode, subscribe to my newsletter, The Split, linked at the bottom of the description to get each episode plus a transcript emailed directly to your inbox every week. Thanks again for listening. See you in the next episode.